Hi, I'm Connie with Bryan ISD Child Nutrition Services, and today we're going to make cinnamon rolls using the straight dough method. The straight dough method just means that you mix all the ingredients in one bowl and mix and knead it at the same time. So let's go check out the ingredients. For our recipe for 25 cinnamon rolls, first of all, we're going to have 3 pounds and 4 ounces of flour, which is a blend of whole wheat flour and all-purpose flour, unless you have like an ultra grain that's already blended. We need 3 and 2 ounces worth of dairy blend. We need 4 and 7/8 ounces of granulated sugar. For salt, we need 7/8 of an ounce. Vegetable oil, we need 2/3 of a cup. For our instant yeast, we need 1 3/4 ounces. And the last ingredient for the dough itself is water. We need 3 7/8 cup. For the filling for the cinnamon rolls, the first thing we need is a pound of dried breadcrumbs. Now you can use loaf bread, or you could use rolls that you had left over just to recycle and save money. Powdered sugar, and we need 2/3 of a pound of powdered sugar. Brown sugar, and we need 4 3/4 ounces of that. It wouldn't be cinnamon rolls without cinnamon. We need 2 3/8 ounces of cinnamon. We have our dairy blend, and we'll need a 1/2 ounce of that. And we'll mix this later while the bread is fermenting. Okay, when you're baking especially, it's very important that you weigh your dry ingredients if at all possible. On your scale, you want to make sure it's at 0 with whatever container you're using. We need 3 pounds and 4 ounces of flour. So we're going to see if that's what we have. There's 3 pounds, there's 2 ounces, 4 ounces. So that's how you weigh your flour. Okay, first of all, we're going to put our 3 pounds and 4 ounces of flour in our bowl. Our dairy blend, we have 3 ounces and 2/3 of an ounce. We have 7/8 of an ounce of salt. Sugar, 2/3 of an ounce. Yeast, we have 1 3/4 ounces. Oil, we have 2/3 of a cup. And then last is our water, 3 7/8 cup. Now, we're going to put in our dough hook. Get him secure. Going to lift this up, close him down, and this has got to spin for about 15 to 20 minutes. First of all, we're going to start it on low because we don't want to throw flour all over ourselves, which can happen. Once the ingredients start incorporating, we're going to turn it up. It's going to mix for, like I said, 15 to 20 minutes. Now, this is kneading and mixing at the same time. As the dough becomes ready, it'll start forming into a ball and it will pull away from the sides of the bowl. So, and then after it mixes, we have a test to make sure it's finished when we get to that point. It'll take about 15 minutes. Okay, the dough's been kneading and mixing here for about 15 to 20 minutes. Now you can test to see if your gluten's formed by pulling apart about a 6-inch piece. It should not fall apart, but you should be able to see through it. That's how you know your gluten is properly formed. Okay? Now we're going to take the dough hook out after we lower this. Now, the next step is fermentation. What we're going to do is cover this with a little plastic wrap. I'm going to spray it just so it won't stick. And put it down. And this has got to set for another 30, maybe even 60 minutes. It's going to depend on your kitchen. It's going to depend on your yeast, but it should double in size. And we'll check back on it in about half an hour. The dough's doubled in size, and now we're just going to test it just to make sure that it's risen properly. You can just insert 2 fingers and the impression should stay. Okay? Now, the next step is punching and folding. And we're just going to do that to get out any excess air bubbles or gases that may have formed. Next, we're going to divide it into portions. We're going to weigh this. For the recipe we're doing, we need 7 pounds. So let's go see if we got 7 pounds. Yeah, 7 pounds. Okay. The next step is called rounding the portion. And all that means is you're going to get the smooth part on top. So any little ugly pieces you have, you fold under. Now, if you had a lot of dough, you would portion out all your little portions and cover them up, because this dough is still rising. So it's still active, so we just can't leave it here forever. What we're going to do next is to shape the portions. At this point, you would do, if you were doing rolls, you would make little rolls. If you were doing a loaf of bread, you know, you would shape it in and put it in a loaf pan. We're going to be rolling out cinnamon rolls. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go over here. Now you're going to want to dust a little flour on the surface, not too much. You just want to put enough so it doesn't stick. If you put too much, the bread can get tough. Okay? Okay, now we're going to roll the dough out. Our recipe calls for about a 25-inch long rectangle and around 10 inches in width and about a quarter of an inch thick. Now, at this point, if you're a little rough with the dough, it's okay. Later on, we have to be gentle. But we want to get it in a rectangle, as close to a rectangle as we can. And you can shape it to get it where you need it to be. If one side's bigger than the other, you can just roll it back down there. Okay, there's our rectangle. We're going to make the cinnamon spread. We've already pre-dried these in the oven into breadcrumbs. Now, you can mix these in the mixer if you have a bunch of them. I'm just going to kind of chop them up here. And to this crumb mixture, we're going to add our brown sugar, our cinnamon, our dry milk, and our powdered sugar. Now, that's going to mix together. Then we're going to add water, just till it comes together. Okay, get some water. Like I said, if you have a lot of this, it's much easier to do in the mixer. The filling right here is going to be what makes it cinnamon rolls. This is going to be the cinnamon flavor. It should be a spreadable consistency because we're going to spread it on top of our rectangle of dough. Okay, now we're going to put this on our cinnamon rolls. Make sure it's spread out evenly so that everybody gets the cinnamon taste. Okay, now we're going to roll it. Just fold it over what's in front of you. Do not roll it tight. If you roll it tight, when you bake it, it's going to pop up in the middle. And you don't want that to happen. So you just gently fold it over until you have a log. Now, you want this log to be as even as possible. You don't want it to be fat in the middle and skinny at the end because you want all your cinnamon rolls to be basically the same size. So try your best to make sure it's pretty even. Then we're going to cut it and portion it. For this recipe, we're supposed to get about 24 out of a roll. So we're going to divide it in half. And then if we divide it in half again, if we get 6 out of each of these, 6 times 4 is 24. So if we want to get 6 out of this, we're going to divide this one in half. And then get 3 out of this. Now these are large cinnamon rolls. If you wanted, you could make them half this size. They're still pretty large. Divide it in half, and then 3. You got to make sure and spread them out so they have room to grow because they're still going to rise again. there's our 24 on a pan. Now we're going to proof the cinnamon rolls. You can put them in a low oven or a proofer. You could even leave them on the counter covered if you needed to. This will take about half an hour. The cinnamon rolls have proofed now. They've gone through their second rising. At this point, you want to be gentle because if you knock them around too much, you can deflate them, like I just did. So be gentle. And we've got them at 325, and they're going to take about 15 minutes, but at about 8 minutes, we're going to check them and turn them to make sure they cook evenly. Okay, we're going to get the cinnamon rolls out. They're nice and golden brown. You do want to make sure that they're also brown on the bottom, because if you don't check that, they could still be gooey on the inside, and these are brown. So we're going to spray them with butter spray. And we're going to let them cool for a while before we ice them. Okay, next we're going to make the icing for the cinnamon rolls. We're going to start off with 2 ounces of margarine, and then we need 1 3/4 teaspoons of vanilla, and 3/4 of a cup of water, and then 2 pounds of powdered sugar. Let's make our icing. We're going to put our powdered sugar, and get it all over me. And we need 1 teaspoon and 3/4 of vanilla, so I'm going to use the half and the quarter and make 3/4. Okay, then we're going to put our butter in. This can be done in the mixer, but since we're just making a small amount, we're going to do it in here. We need to add our water. Stir it till it's smooth. Like I said, if you have a large amount, this can be done in the stand mixer, but we're not doing that much. And voila, icing. Now we're going to ice them. Just brush the icing on top of each one. Now, what kid can resist that? Whole wheat cinnamon roll.